G'day guys, and today I've got an idea that I've had knocking around in my head for a little bit that I wish to share with you. Now, I'm not entirely sure how to begin. Often it helps for me personally just to start recording and to start rambling, and it helps me think, put things into words and that sort of thing. But I want to talk about this idea that mind and body are inseparably entwined, and you can't have one without the other. We don't exist without a body. You need to have some physical presence in the world, and we don't have a physical presence in the world without a mind to accompany us. Obviously, there are specific cases where people are born. There's very strange conditions where people are born and essentially their brain just liquefies into cerebral spinal fluid. We have people who have severe cognitive disabilities and this sort of thing. They do have a mind, a consciousness, so to speak of, but it's a consciousness that isn't aware of its own existence. It's extremely limited, even more so than the most base of animals, which are at least aware that they're alive and can respond to changes in their environment. But this is big sort of dichotomy in philosophy, concerning how do we pursue the greatest good and this sort of thing, whether human beings are capable, through the actions of their mind, of controlling their body. And this is something that Stoicism and Epicureanism touch on, because they say, look, the body has urges, things happen to the body and the involuntary responses, but we can control our reactions to this sort of thing and live a more balanced life and live a more good life and this sort of thing. But there are other philosophers such as Schopenhauer who say, look, it's basically impossible to control the urges of the body, and no matter how much philosophical training, mental rigmarole you go through, you are going to be affected in some capacity. And the example that is presented to me in a book called The Consolations of Philosophy by Alain de Botton is, would any great philosopher, say Plato, Socrates, and this sort of thing, would they be able to deliver the same speech, say the defense of Socrates, him representing himself at his own trial, would they be able to be the same person, just as eloquent, just as able to enunciate the words and be charismatic and convincing, if they had an ingrown toenail, or if they were hungry, or if they had a migraine and this sort of thing? And I think we're all aware of this. We go throughout our daily lives and we can do things, we can go to work, we can have banter with colleagues and this sort of thing, and it's all fine and good. But when we're angry, or when we're hungover, or when we're sick, we just can't handle as much. We just tend to snap and go off the rails at people that, in any other circumstance, any other day, that wouldn't happen. So I'm pretty sure that there's a good example of how the mind, or the effects, how conditions affecting the body can affect the mind. Now, conversely, conditions of the mind can end up affecting the body. So let's think about, say for example, for reasons external to the conditions of your body, you become more depressed. Things are just getting you down, work seems to be crushing you, life seems to be crushing you. I'm sure we all know what that feels like at certain points in time. And if you get in this depressed or potentially anxious state, you can lose motivation to train in the gym, to eat healthy and this sort of thing, and you'll begin to put on weight and all these other unfortunate health habits that we see. And I think that's, again, another example of how the mind can influence the body. And conversely, just using the same example, the body can influence the mind. Say we start putting on weight just for, again, reasons external to the mind. We just start eating more for whatever reason. Well, we start looking ourselves in the mirror and we start to get depressed because, look, we're putting on weight and we have a bad self-image and this sort of thing. So I think when we're looking to attack one aspect of ourselves, you say we want to get fit, we want to train and this sort of thing, or we want to get our head straight, we want to have beat off depression and anxiety, this sort of thing. It does take into account to consider not just the one thing you're focusing on, be it mind or body, but also the other, again, be it mind or body. So if we're going to attack depression, let's get in the gym. Let's improve your self-image, and make ourselves feel better mentally by having a better body. And conversely, if we want to get a better body, then let's increase our sense of self-worth, our perception of ourselves and this sort of thing, because this ties into an idea that you generate the results in life that you think you deserve. So if you just think you're a loser, well, losers don't get out there and train really hard and get really fit and eat right and this sort of thing. They sort of just shuffle through life, and that may be what you find yourself doing just because of this, again, an artificial restriction that you've put on yourself, label you've put on yourself, something I've talked about on the channel before. So if anyone's watching this video and they want to make some sort of improvement in their life, whether it's mind or body, I ask you to consider not just the mind or the body, but both at the same time, because they're intrinsically linked. The effects of one can impact the other, and so on and so forth. I think a nice and poetic way to put it would be to say, if you do not tend to the wounds of one, either your mind or body, you will certainly end up bleeding on the other. So when we're thinking about health, when we're thinking about becoming a more rounded and powerful and charismatic and essentially good person to be around, good person to be, and this sort of thing, let's consider both mind and body and work towards them. There's such thing as physical health as well as mental health. They're not external to each other. They can have an influence on each other and this sort of thing. So yeah, get out there, guys. Look after yourself. Thanks all for sticking around and have a good one.